Welcome to Success Stories. My name is Stephen Jarrett, and I am the humble host today, sharing with you guys not just a success story that is truly one that proves that building the right processes can get you a job, but that processes truly remove or allow you to overcome the pressure of job seeking. And I'm going to be able to have the opportunity to show you today through some questions to a great friend of mine named Wes, who's going to come on and really share with you not only how he built his system for this, but how he has learned over the course of the last several years how to navigate this wild market and build a sustainable side business that helps relieve some of those pressures. But it's a systematic approach of how then he's able to seek for a job, even when without a job or with a job. So it is my humble and blessed opportunity to bring in and introduce you to Wes Green. Wes, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Stephen.
It's great to get to connect with you. I know we've known each other for years at this point, right? We go back, I would say 2 years. You were one of the first people I think I really had the first opportunity to meet when I was really starting to build out some of this program that is now JSC with Tina. So if you want, give us a little background about somewhat of your journey, and maybe even if you want to talk a little bit about how we met in the beginning, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So essentially our journey, I believe we met a couple years ago when I was with a previous job search, we'll call them tool. So it was at a time that I felt like I was doing everything right. I mean, I was applying, I was networking, I was showing up, but internally, I just felt like it was just noisy and scattered and reactive. And I know, like through our calls, I was able to get a lot of clarity, a lot of direction as to how to navigate that mess. And my intention was always strong, even when things were messy. I just didn't have a system that matched the intention. So, I mean, I was applying to 30, 40 roles a week, and mostly just broad sales roles, like anything that said, if it said sales, I was applying. There was no real clear strategy behind those. And then I was still trying to run my LLC, and I was intentionally planning a return to the corporate world to rebuild the capital and stability, kind of based off of some of the calls that you and I had, which was awesome. I started feeling like, okay, this is going from concept to reality. And it really wasn't the confidence or effort that was really, I felt like, holding me back. The things through our conversations was showing me that the mental weight of the uncertainty without having that repeatable structure is really what was holding me back at the time.
Yeah, and I think back to some of our conversations, and we veered most often away from your job search, and we really, I mean, the tool that you had was really sufficient in helping show you what you were already doing, right? You were mass applying. I think the gap in that tool was a strategic approach based on the person. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I noticed is when I leaned into the individual and learned the individual, I saw more and more and more that it wasn't about just resumes and applying and constant just beating of that gavel. That can get you a job, sure, but it just gets you a job. It doesn't get you the right job, right? And you were a great, I hate to say this, but test subject for me to be able to say, take some of the leadership training that I had accrued and learned over the 15 years that I had, and started to utilize those to assist particularly a sales individual in how to network differently based on your strengths, how to lean in on building systems that were outside of the job search to relieve pressure. So, and you were the individual that I have to say, you didn't lack any effort. You didn't lack really, truly confidence. You were a very confident person. Or the experience to do all this. It was just the system. So tell me a little bit about what that really meant, because most job seekers don't fail because they're underqualified. Definitely when you are overqualified for a lot of the situations, they truly have trouble or they fail because their story isn't aligned to the problem or the role that really is needed to give them that true dream job. So give me a little bit of help understanding that.
So, and I see it as when I started searching, I'd already owned my LLC for about the 3 years. So, as you and I talked about, the decision to re-enter the corporate world was intentional. So, like, my larger goal was to source capital and stability for my future personal ventures. And essentially, the moment within JSC that really made it click for me, uh, my resume review with Tina. So our conversations were great, and then having Tina actually go into my resume, there was you and I had rapport. So there's certain things we just talked about, or it was just casual mentions, etc. She started asking me certain questions about certain roles that made me rethink the role of, like, why was I there? What was I doing at that company? And I realized the issue wasn't me. It wasn't my process. Well, kind of was a process at the time. It wasn't the effort. It wasn't the confidence. It was really just where I was focusing my intention, because I was losing sight of my bigger goal. If the goal is to do ABC, then you need to do XYZ. And I was just basically following whoever would say, hey, let's interview you, let's screen you. So I was just walking down whatever roads became available. And when I worked with previous resume services, they just gave me like these generic outputs. I couldn't, reading my own resume was like, I hope someone understands this. I hope this must be what they're looking for, because I have no clue. And it wasn't personal to me. And I wanted to move from a get picked mindset to understand why those roles actually exist. And does my experience align with those roles to cure the company's pain point? So instead of emotionally reacting to the silence, I started asking myself, like, does my story clearly solve the problem this role exists to fix? Once I reached that point, the shift just brought so much more intentionality to my approach. I mean, resumes, outreach, interviews, it was just so much more strategic. It wasn't this spray and pray and just hope someone responds.
That's awesome. And we talk so much about the system, right? And when you are defining, for anyone who's a new listener or who just doesn't understand how JSC really helps job seekers find jobs in 3 months or less. Like if you have the dedicated time to do that, that's the reason why 50% of our members do that, is because if you have the dedicated time, if you are one of those members, then your percentage chance of finding a job in 3 months, even in this crazy market, right? It's there. And that's because what Wes is describing is removing noise, really truly taking away that scattered effort and truly honing in on your story, your strengths, who, what, when, why, where of your resume, so your resume can become marketing materials. You can't go out and network. You can't truly succeed in the interview space if you don't know your story. And Tina is the best in the world. I have used Tina for my executive clients forever. Everyone goes to Tina, right? They've been doing that for a decade plus. That's why she's the best business partner and co-founder I could ever have. But her ability to see you through the words on your piece of paper is phenomenal. And I'm so happy you had that experience. And that's, I think, what's really cool is where we're going to go next, right? Because what you did so well inside of that and starting to understand the importance of that, right? And that helped. I remember our follow-up call when I saw the emotional stress drift away from you. It was almost as if a light bulb had gone off and you were always energized. You were always upbeat. But it was like you said, oh, no, I know what I'm going to go attack, and I'm going to attack that ferociously. And you do this so well. So let's kind of go down that path, right? So help me understand a little bit more about how you shifted into these processes, even though there was some pressure mounting around you, right? There was some financial and other things, and I'll let you share your own business, but there were some things that it was getting how do we say this, aggressively more pointed. Would that be fair to say?
I like to call it fun.
Yeah, okay, fun, sure. Let's call it fun. I like that. We'll keep it light.
So, I mean, really, what I needed to do, I realized it wasn't just the structured routine. I mean, I'm used to structure. I grew up in a military household. I run my LLC and I also have a day job. So time, I wake up in the morning, I make my bed first thing. I mean, that's just the routine to me. So I treated the job search like a structured routine at that point and not the emotional roller coaster. So even on those low motivation days, I had my controllables to fall back on. Did I make a X amount of outreaches? Did I do any applications? And on the really hard days, did I do something that moves me forward one little bit versus where I was yesterday? That spray and pray just wasn't going to keep working. At the end of each week, I'd step back and reflect, okay, what's working? Where am I stuck? Am I getting feedback? And what kind of feedback is that? Along the way, those regular meetings with you and those tactical coaching and mindset check-ins, I mean, yeah, you're part mentor, part therapist. I mean, helping me stay grounded and focused. I mean, being able to have those candid conversations really did help me, especially mentally, as I'm going through these roles, because it's like, hey, I'm taking a screening and I don't even know what this company is, but I applied and they want to talk to me. That really helped. And then also on the side, what I also started doing was picking up little odd jobs. So I would pick up paid survey work. There's a lot of survey groups out there that'll pay you, for your time and your opinions for an hour or two of your time, et cetera. Started doing some of those. I also leveraged platforms like Upwork, et cetera, just to pick up small contracts and tasks for the LLC to complete, things that also builds up the reputation and the rapport for the LLC in the way. But what it did was it kept the wheels turning, but I just knew it wasn't a long-term solution. So over time, what I learned was it was consistency and not intensity that built my momentum. And I didn't really need every day to be a win. I just really needed to keep showing up.
I love that, and I enjoyed all of our calls too. So thank you for saying that. Was very kind of you. It's always great getting to talk to someone, and I say this. People hear this on the podcast, right? Where I always say, "Oh, they're a good friend of mine." And this is serious. I want to take a moment, and I want to really lean in here.
Yes.
I am so lucky that I get to meet every single one of you, and I know we're up to 327, I think, or something like that in the Discord at this point. But I truly, I mean this. The relationships fuel me. And Wes, you were one of those individuals that truly did feed my emotional calories. You were such a blessing to me in this process. And I'm so lucky I got to go through this journey with you, because what you said here is really where it resonates back to a couple of our conversations. And that really was that moment. I was like, man, I really just like this guy. It's not just that he's it's great. He's a part of our world, but man, I really like this person, and I'm blessed to get to do that. And so, for anyone who is listening, we do our best. Tina and myself do our very best to try and connect with each and every single person as much as we can. So if you're in the Discord and you keep getting those good morning messages, that's really me. That's not a bot. I am trying to talk to you. So don't be afraid. You can talk back for some of those folks that have been like, is this really you? It's me. I want to build a relationship because you can't solve someone's problem if you don't know. And I think that's what you did. You got to know who this person was, Wes, not just as a worker, but as someone who's really good at their craft. And I want that to resonate with some job seekers out there who maybe you're lost, maybe you feel stuck, maybe you've been in the same company. I know we've got a bunch of Verizon folks who just joined out of that 13,000 that were laid off. Maybe you're just going, well, I've only been in this space and that's who my identity was. I'm here to tell you that's not true, right? You are unique. There's something very individual about you that makes you special. We can't get into all of this on this podcast, but I know, Wes, you and I talked a little bit about your essence, your unique calling, your unique abilities, and bringing those forth. And I think what you did great was you took this. You were never stuck because you never stopped moving, but you were like a hamster on a wheel. And you figured out how to get off that wheel, and you created really, truly feedback loops for yourself that allowed you to continue. You didn't figure it out in week 1 or week 2, and you had to build your structure about your timelines. And so for the folks that are, maybe they're busy, they've got other jobs, maybe they're feeling a little stuck. How did you make the time to be a job seeker? How did you make the time for reflection so you could refine those processes? And how did you do that without feeling that pressure?
For me, the best way that I can think of that I structured my day was, I think that I think I'd we had this conversation at one point as well. I started to use the harder rejection days and the harder days of the day roll to motivate myself into the job search. Hey, let me really spend some time thinking, what do I really want to do? What path do I want to walk down? Um, Something that really changed the way I saw my job search and really made me put that structure together. I had an interview with a Fortune 100 HRIS company. Uh, Great company, very well known. Pretty much everyone has received a paycheck from them at some point. I was told that having my LLC made me too risky of a candidate because I had options, and it did cut deeply. It did not because I felt wrong, but because something I was proud of was just framed as a liability. Um, it a follow-up conversation with you helped me reframe it. Their discomfort wasn't about me; it's about organizational alignment. From that point on, I had to stop letting those companies define my worth and started evaluating them as much as they evaluated me. So I started identifying, okay, when I am applying, let me take the time here to make sure when I apply, do their executives, do their board, does their leadership have other roles that they're also in that are active? Or is it a company where they say if you are tied anywhere else that you're not going to give them your all? So what I started doing is essentially taking all of my insecurities, all the weak points, and focusing on them, not to beat myself up necessarily, but to learn from those insights, to learn what could be holding me back. And that's really what gave me the structure, because then I started saying, okay, well, this day I may be starting to work early, but I still need to make time to apply for roles. So even if it's okay, I'll take my lunch break and throw in a few applications during the lunch break, but I can do that because I've researched where I want to apply on these other times. You start to make time for it. So I wouldn't say I necessarily put a schedule of like 5 o'clock, do this, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But I did start saying, you know what? If I want to get to this place, it requires these actions. It requires this waterfall effect. And I guess that's just leaning on a little bit of my sales background. I understand pipelines and funnels a little bit better than I ever wanted to in my life. So.
Well, and what I hear there is, this is how professionals separate emotions from execution.
Yes.
And I remember some of our conversations around that, right? We talk a lot about emotions are extremely important. They're a regulator. They're a beacon to show us that something is going on. But if you allow the emotions to control you, and you don't allow the emotions to lead you, so emotions lead you to facts, right? But if you allow the emotions to control you, you'll never understand the facts. So what I love about what you really did there is you allowed the pressures or the moments, some of that directional kind of feedback that your emotions were giving you, those insecurities, to the factual piece. But wait a minute here, let's go factually see if these companies believe in some of the same things. And what I loved was there's a couple of companies that told you to go bye-bye. Then in reality, their senior leadership, they were working on other things then on the side. So they were that again, there's a right job for everyone. And that's the key indicator here that I want to walk away from everyone listening is you're going to be rejected right now. It takes Bureau Labor and Statistics say between 5 and 9 months to get a job. That is a long time, right? What I think is important here for everyone to hear is you didn't have a rigid routine, but you did have a routine. Consistency will always improve your overall and your opportunity at a job and shrink that timeline, but intensity does not guarantee that. It's not intensity without structure and strategy. You got to make sure you have the right structure to it because of who you are and what you're trying to achieve clearly existing. And you did that so well. There's a bunch of research that shows all this. Stanford has done this, that you can reduce your time of outcomes by 33% if you're very consistent in your job search. So if you are a job seeker and you do not have consistency, and a structure, please listen to what Wes is telling you. It doesn't have to look like Wes's. It doesn't have to look like mine, but you have to put something in place yourself, because every single day doesn't have to be a win, but you do need to have momentum every single day. I really truly believe you have to do that. And also heard you say bad days are normal. I think that's a big one, right? There's going to be rejection days, right? Those are going to be tough.
I'm in sales. We have a lot of ups and downs.
And it is easier. And for folks who aren't in sales, it's okay. I mean, Wes, you shared this with me over and over again, that you felt like the sales experience prepared you for this. So I don't think you've said it today, but we just, in our previous conversations, and that's so true. Losing is normal. It's hard to say out loud, but losing is normal, right? All right. So I think I want to kind of ask a question here that is a little bit different, because if someone is just getting started with their search, what would you really want a listener to know about your experience, and how would you guide them?
Really, the thing I would want to say is you're going to hear a lot of stuff, noise. Everybody is an individual, so everybody's path is going to be different. There's also a difference between chasing a job versus chasing careers, passions versus just paying the bills. So to me, perfection was never the goal. Processes. And anyone who has worked with me or anything in the past, they'll know that process is something I'm very keen on. It's not a perfect process, and it will always refine itself. It's the Kaizen mentality. You're going to constantly be improving those little things along the way. The job search is a system. It's not a sprint. So you will have those rejections that feel personal. And when the right fit comes, you will know. I don't know how to say anything else, but you'll just know. So what I also suggest is reframing that rejection as a reflection of alignment and not value. So it's not, hey, we don't like you as a person. We just don't feel like you fit this role towards our strategic goals. That's not a big deal. It's not a personal thing on you. There's somebody for everybody situation. So don't let any single company define your worth. That turned down from a Fortune 100 company, it hurt, but it was also one of those, well, you start asking more questions, almost like, hey, if you see this as a threat, why? It brings a lot of intangible value. It brings a lot of other skills across the plate that I speak with customers on a level that most people won't. So it's not a personal thing against me. It's an alignment issue. Build a system you can trust, even on those low confidence days, because that's when the process matters most. Those low confidence days, it's so easy to say, you know what, it was a terrible day. I don't want to do any of this today. And then the next day, it's easy to say, oh, well, I didn't do it yesterday. And then the day after that, oh, I didn't do it for the last 2 days. And the next thing you know, you have no interviews and you're getting no screenings. So it is that funnel, it is that pipeline funnel effect. And always keep your crown high. You're not broken. You're just not aligned yet. The right organization will see you. And when they do, it's magical. I can't explain how, I can't explain why. I can't say when the stars align and the Big Dipper is in the right place, the right job comes along. But when you speak with the right hiring manager, screener, whichever, you will know, you will feel it.
Man, that's great advice. And there's a couple parts there I'm going to lean in a little bit more, because I think there's so much about the mental side of this. But you were a tactician. I want listeners to also know that you did have a systematic approach that you utilized in some of your applying, and how often you would apply and how you would apply. So you obviously mentioned spray and pray, right? You were doing that. There was a whole lot, but you cleaned that up through the meeting with Tina, understanding your story, understanding your resume better, understanding what companies you wanted to work for. You mentioned, of course, a great understanding of saying, oh, some of these companies that don't have LLCs, maybe they have some risk tolerance, right, for someone who's working on side gigs, even though studies show that 35% of all senior candidates have an LLC. 35%. That's crazy, right? And hopefully we can get that number to 55 or 60, because true freedom is owning your own company. But with that being said, let's go to the system. Give some indications. Maybe it was a course you read or a part of our coursework. Maybe it was something there. What was something that you said, ooh, that was a big help. That was an unlock for me, other than the meeting with Tina, because I think that's important.
Really, I think back to when your parents say like you don't listen to something until you've heard it from multiple people. Um, our conversations, the conversation with Tina, and one person I really want to call out would be Cassandra Powell
Mhm.
from that previous place I was. I was having sessions with her at like 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning, my time. We had some incredible conversations. Her insight, energy, and belief, like, really helped reshape how I approach not just the job search, but myself. A lot of things I realized was it wasn't necessarily the job search that was the issue. And a lot of that, I feel like we all get tied up so much in that job search. We really need to just focus more on who are we? What fills our cup? What makes us happy? What satisfies us that makes us want to wake up and go to work every day? It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. If you're miserable going to that role every day, performance typically follows along with that. Your mental health goes along with that. And those are a lot of the struggles that I realized I was feeling were more personal, emotional, just those type of I don't want to call it rejection, more you're almost holding yourself back because you start feeling like, oh, I'm going into an interview. Are they going to say something about my LLC? Are they going to feel bad about a layoff I've been through? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do versus this is who I am, here's my story. I'm very confident that I could fulfill the role that I've applied for. And let's have some fun and let's talk.
And I think that actually that triggers the whole concept, right, of value creation, that model, right? Teaching the selfless and the selfish component of a
Yes.
conversation and meeting someone. That's what registers in my mind. And when I hear you say that, and so to frame this for job seekers listening, the idea here is when you meet someone, you have to have the posture of curiosity, right? And you go into the idea that doesn't matter if it's someone at the grocery store or the CEO of the company you want to work for. If you treat those individual people the exact same way, in a way that you're incredibly interested in the value that they can bring in this moment, and you're also incredibly interested in how you can create value for that person. If you do that, then your confidence level will elevate if you understand that premise truly. And we teach that, of course. That's a number one piece of networking. That's a big component of what we do inside of JSC. But what I love is going back to Cassandra. You can't truly do that well if you're not confident in what you love. And Cassandra was one of the best at that. I truly do believe so. Cassandra, shout out to you. But with that said, tied onto that, Wes, I think your networking was some of the best. Even the role that you've now landed, right? This job that you've landed, it really came through. Not, I wouldn't say it was the traditional networking, right? So talk to some folks about how you utilize this, maybe lost to a lead premise, or you utilize some of the networking techniques that truly and how you even tweak them to be your own system. But how did networking really work for you before we jump into another topic?
Networking for me started out very frustrating. Being in sales, majority of my network are salespeople as well. So it tends to happen in the tech industry lately. When one person loses their role, all of a sudden everybody starts losing their jobs. So a lot of my network actually wasn't, I don't want to say that beneficial in terms of job searching at the time. Great friends, great people that we're always connecting. We're always, checking in on each other, et cetera. But when it comes to providing a referral within a company, if you're not working in one, or if you're working in one, but you just started within a few months or et cetera, you just don't have the pull to refer people in, et cetera. So I started realizing my network, I hadn't fostered it as well as I should have through the years. And I really started to feel some of those gaps. The role I found now is the most untraditional way. I couldn't have planned it. I couldn't have scripted this one. It was a text message. Hey, I just saw this pop up on my LinkedIn and I think so and so works there. And I was looking at it. I think so. Let me text him. And it just text messages turned into an introduction, which turned into a screening interview. You never, ever, ever know when it'll happen. This isn't the first time I've had a referral. It's not it is the first time like we actually went through it and it was, hey, this is a great match. So really, when it comes to networking, you never know what you'll find. Don't give up. There was a point where I felt like, man, my network is just getting me nowhere. And I started feeling, once again, bad about myself, saying, I didn't make enough friends when I was in roles, or I didn't connect in the right ways. I should have joined more professional orgs, or I should have gotten my master. I should have received my master's in a state that I was actually living in. I want to live in more often. So you start thinking about all the spinning and all the things that it could be. And in reality, it's just, you never know what could happen. You don't know what you don't know. And this contact happened to be someone that I spoke with on a regular basis. We just didn't know. Left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing situation. So I will always tell people to lean into your network. You never know what's there. Every now and then someone will introduce you to someone, and for all you know, and a lot of my network actually taught me, more so than where a job was, more so taught me what I do and don't want to do. So I started to build a long list of roles and companies and industries that I did not want to go into, which was arguably more helpful than knowing what I did want to go into.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it's missed a lot of times. Job seekers, and we teach this. We're guilty of this at JSC. It's designed to be, what's your top 10 list of companies, right? That's your cold outreach strategy. And excuse me. And the key to that is to understand truly why are those companies the best, right? Because that allows you to just push away those distractions, right? And we'll take this all the way back up to the top. You said this so well. It was about clarity and removing the noise. And that is the key for any search, is to do that well. And you were definitely one of those. And, the right system does not get you hired. Let me just say that right now. But it does give you peace while you wait. And man, you did that well. And you also brought peace to the community. I think you were, obviously you were busy. It was hard for you to be involved in the Discord all the time. But I think when we did hear from you, when you do jump in, when you were on calls, particularly on some of those open office hours, you really did bring a calmness. And I do believe that's because of your processes. So kudos to you for that. Pretty amazing. But before we get to say the close and we start to wrap this up, I want to ask you another question that I think is important. When you got into the actual process for this job, you said something to me that wasn't that it clicked. Yes, it was like a good match. Of course it was. That's how these things work. It's kind of like dating, right? When you know. But the match happened because of several intervention moments that you put in for yourself, and how you corrected some of your questions that you would ask, right? And how you would frame those questions. So for individuals who might be nervous about creating questions, asking powerful questions, what would be your recommendation to them? How would you help someone, guide them and to be able to figure out how they like to ask questions, other than they can just join our class and we can do it, of course. We could teach you. But for Wes, trying to give that away, of course, for free on the podcast, what would you say that looks like?
The biggest thing I learned when it came to asking any type of questions, I think of the best way to put it. Never be afraid to ask the question, and don't feel intimidated by your screeners or any people reaching out, whether it's a screener, hiring manager, any of these individual companies that do headhunting, etc. Don't ever feel intimidated by them. Not in a get on there and be cocky and say all types of wild things, but don't feel intimidated. If you're in the right place, you're in the right place. They want to learn you. They want to be impressed by you. And I feel like what happens is we all get so wrapped up in the emotions of the job search, feeling hurt because of this rejection, feeling this because of that conversation that happened, or even if it's going well, they may have said something on the call where you're like, ooh, I need to make sure I don't bring that up anymore, or I hide that piece of myself. That piece of yourself is what's making you unique and what's giving you the edge to bring you to the table in the first place. So I'm a very strong believer in making sure those questions are open. I think it was I know you said without JSC, but I don't think I would have been here without that. So with what I learned with JSC, there were questions that I even learned to start asking the screener versus the hiring manager versus anyone else, like a sales manager I might speak to along the process. questions that actually make them think, questions that also make them see, oh, this guy is serious. Oh, this guy is different. I like to be that candidate that they think, oh, we had this one piece that really stood out. So there were certain questions, I don't want to necessarily give them away, but I know one of mine that I use often is asking when I get to a sales manager level, what do you enjoy about working here? And just judging about how they respond, how much time it takes them to respond, etc., also can let you know kind of what it's like inside that organization. I'm not saying correlations, causation, or anything here, but the way they respond to that can sometimes give you some clues as to this is where I want to be, or this is not where I want to be, or you know what, I don't know if I like the personality of this manager. I had an interview a few weeks ago where I did not like the personality of the manager, and I was like, hey, coming onto this team would set me up for failure. It just absolutely would. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Don't see them as intimidating. Your whole destiny is in their hands, because it's not. Your destiny is in your hands, but they're just someone along the way. The analogy I love the most when it came to asking questions and like my journey as a whole, you and I had this conversation about getting on the train. We're all on the train together, and I just happened to get off at a stop that some people got off, some people didn't, and the train kept going. So it doesn't mean that my story's bad. I can get back on the train and ride along with everybody else and still reach the same destination. But along the way, I picked up some new skills. I saw a new flower that was growing outside of the train station. I went to a cafe that had some new pastries that had never been released before. I've picked up some things along the way that make me unique. And so when I get back on that train and I'm applying with everybody else, I need to keep those things in. I have to keep them in mind, and I should not be ashamed of them either. Creating an LLC is not something to be ashamed of. There's a lot of value there to the right people. And that's really where it came down to. I found at a point, instead of asking questions for clarity and for essentially judging what my future would be or my destiny would be within that company, when I started, I was asking questions that just weren't relevant or were putting me on the list as a low tier hire, things like that, because you're still operating off of the frantic and, oh, I got a screening, sweet, let me tell them this, let me do that. So just relax, take those deep breaths, woosah, bring your best self to those calls. The questions will just fall in naturally.
Yeah, I think the piece of that too that we'll connect the dots here real quick is you did a really good job of understanding how to play chess, not checkers. Questions should never be just a simplistic yes, no, basic. Even that question you're talking about there with the manager, you never framed it just in that simplistic of a term. You would make. I love one of them, and I'm trying to pull it out of my memory. I should have extracted it from one of our calls, but you said you did it so well. So if I butcher this, you can reframe it for me and for the audience. But you made the mention of when you were talking to the leader, you would say it this way. So I want to hear this. When you're leading your team, what's the number one thing that you think is the best achievement that the company allows you to do as a leader? What an incredible question, right? Because it doesn't just talk about their leadership. It builds them up. It gives them that opportunity to kind of open up the door to speak to the things they're doing. But it also connected back how the company would come in, right? How did the company give you that ability? So it makes the interviewer, which is so important. I want to hear this. If you're just listening, you won't see me do my action, but if you're watching, they lean back.
Yeah.
That pause, you get them thinking, get to a business conversation, right? I do get them to discuss what makes you special inside the organization, but also what makes the organization special, right? You said this so well. It's about interviewing them as much as that's it. Get to a point where you guys are interviewing each other. You're having a genuine conversation. I was speaking with one of our new folks named Courtney, and one of I think she's one of the most positive individuals. She reminds me a lot of you. And Courtney basically represents this really well about how important it is that you have that connection. And that's what you found too, but you found it because, again, going back, you were curious, you had the right posture, you asked deep, rich questions, and you were constantly asking questions that would lead you to ask another question. And so I hope everybody hears that. So, all right, Wes, we've been talking here for some time, and I'm so blessed that I had this chance to be able to chat with you. And I think everybody else is blessed to listen to you and your knowledge around your clarity and your growth throughout this process, which for you. So everybody, maybe I should have framed this in the beginning a little bit more, but you were completely laid off, completely without a job. That's really where the LLC kind of came from years ago, right? And everything was going well, and you found another job. You were happy in that job. You went through another separation at that point, and that's when you and I met, right? And the LLC was still going. And so the reason why I think I want everyone to understand this is when you entered JSC at a point where you thought a layoff was coming. Right? You could feel it. And a reason why you could feel it is because of all your experience before. That's the train analogy, right? I want everyone to know that the train came from the idea and the concept that Wes had been on and off this train a few times, right? So if you're an individual that feels that way, like you have a resume that shows you've been in a place for 8 months, and then you were on another one for a year and a half, and you're getting some of those questions from screeners that are saying the dreaded, well, it seems like you're hopping jobs. Right? Please understand. Hear me right now. And I'll let Wes you answer it as well. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. The market right now, that is the case. The boom of the startup world sucked a lot of people out of the corporate world. But I'll tell you what, over the last year and a half, all major corporations that would have been deemed as safe are no longer, quote unquote, safe. When there are major corporations like Microsoft, Meta, Verizon, all laying off thousands, not a couple hundred because they're doing a shift or changing an organization. When you're laying off thousands, you're not alone. This is normal now. It's just how you respond. Would you add anything to that, Wes?
I completely agree. I came from the household of, like I said, military household, healthcare household. So the idea was you're supposed to go into a role and you stay there for 30 years and then you retire and you get these great benefits and this retirement plan and all these things that I've been told used to exist. So even when I look at a lot of the people who questioned, oh, well, you have short tenure here or short tenure there, a lot of their resumes also show short tenure, or it'll show, for lack of better words, complacency as well. So never judge the book by its cover, ever. And just realize it's not you. It's not necessarily them either. It's just a misalignment of goals and destiny. And the more, it's like we said, that train approach, I wasn't even a huge fan of trains, but now I can tell you how we fuel the train. I can tell you when the train's coming to a stop. I can tell you how to load the train at this point. I've learned the train as much as I've learned my expeditions that I've taken off of the island, so to speak. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Completely agree. It's not tools or volume. It's really just structure, intentionality, and mindset.
It was awesome. Yep. All right. So Wes, this is always the question that everybody appreciates the most from all the feedback we get from our listeners. And so if there's one bit of advice of all the things that you've learned, just one, what would be that advice to a new job seeker or someone who's seeing that train is going to push them out possibly? What advice would you give them?
Ooh, if you're listening and feeling lost, you're really not behind. I felt like I was, but it's not. You're not broken. You just haven't built your system yet. Once you do, everything starts to shift. It really is. You're one framework away from traction. It feels impossible. I mean, it will, quote unquote, be impossible. But once you hit that framework, once you hit that goal, once you find out your goal, everything starts to come together. It was nice. It's nice having people reach out in my LinkedIn inbox. Hey, we would love to screen you for this role or interview you. And I can say, sorry, it doesn't line up with what I'm looking for, versus feeling frantic trying to fill up my calendar with every single screening that I could take and every focus. Focus really helps with the clarity. It helps your mental health It helps stress, anxiety, everything else. You're really just the day you feel like is your worst day is the next day that things start to change. It's wild how it works, but it does.
Oh, that's awesome. And it reminds me of, I don't know, I've said this quote to you, but I'm going to say it on here because I want people to hear this, right? Perfection is impossible, but the pursuit of perfection is perfect. And the key to understanding that is you cannot have perfect days. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as perfect, particularly in a job search, right? The idea that people think that, oh my gosh, being rejected is hard. It hurts. I get it. The emotions go back to what we said, right? Emotions lead you. They lead you, right? They lead you to the facts, right? And the fact is that wasn't the right job. Whether you loved it, whether you thought it was the best one, they didn't. So you being there would have been wrong. It wouldn't have been the right fit. And remember, statistically, this is the truth. You're only going to get one job. So if you're only going to get one job, that means you have to mow through all the other jobs in order to get to the one, right? Some of us can build a real tight system and find one real fast. And some of us, it takes longer. That's okay. Again, you'll get off the train when it's the right time for you to get off that train. So the encouragement for those that are out there that maybe it's been longer, refine your systems, refine your processes, but do not stop, because it is not about perfection. It truly is not, right? It is all about understanding that if you have the right community around you, whether that is our community at JSC or another one, you need a community to keep you moving, keep you going. You need structure, but that structure shouldn't just be something that doesn't fit you. It needs to fit who you are and what you are and why you are, right? And then with that, you have your alignment. And Wes, I think you put those three things together really well in this overall conversation. Was you utilized those good type people around you, you re-networked, you rebuilt that, you built your structure, you designed it up around a busy schedule, this go round on this train ride. And then of course, because of that, you found alignment, right? And you did that, right? I was told, and so many other folks were told, you couldn't find a new job at the busiest time of the year, maybe for nobody in the history of job searching, right? I've had nobody job search through those November, December months, right? And kudos to you and so many others in our community. Actually, there's three folks found a job in December alone. Pretty amazing. So big tip of the cap to you for that. And as we go into the new year, I'm going to ask one more extra additional question and we're going to wrap it up. What's one thing you say, quick, real short, as a New Year's resolution, what's yours going to be?
So every year I try to come up with a motivational phrase, and last year it was fail forward. This year I still haven't picked my set one, but fail forward actually looks like we might be going into year two. So
well,
it's good one that I just keep in mind every single time. Every time I feel like I'm failing, every time I feel like something's not going well, there's a lesson to be learned. Find the lesson, hold on to that positivity, that positive piece of it. Because, I mean, if we're not making mistakes, if we're not messing things up, are we really doing anything?
That's a good question. And so I'll wrap us with this, Wes. Thank you again. I hope that everybody was able to find some familiarity in Wes's story. I think most individuals, and keep the feedback coming, guys, on what you're experiencing and what you're seeing, and what parts of these overall podcasts and where they help you. We'll keep leaning in on those spaces. Obviously, everybody's story is unique and different, right? And we want you to be able to share exactly what your stories are, but keep them coming. I think it's very important. I'm encouraged, not just because of what you said, Wes, but I'm truly encouraged based on what we're seeing individuals like yourself achieve once they're in those right roles, right? That's a big piece of what JSC believes in. We don't just believe in getting you a job. We believe in getting you that right, true job. That's why you've heard us speak so much about figuring out your strengths, where you want to go, why you want to go there, where you want to be in 10, 15 years, right? This is not just your standard, let's get a job routine. We don't believe in that. So if this was familiar to you, you're wanting to join our community, of course, links will be provided to you. Please join our Discord. That's completely free. If you're interested in becoming a monthly subscriber and being involved with us, there's two ways to do that. There is a premium Discord that you can join, and we keep that under $10 for purposes to allow everyone to be able to participate and learn these things because it's that important. But our monthly subscription is only $59.99, right? And the reason why it's only $59.99, so you can have all of our content, our vast library, all the teachings that you hear Wes talk about. You have access to those 24/7 videos, workbooks, whatever you need to be prepared as a job seeker, it's there for you, right? And then of course we have the calls, right? So if you can join us for Mondays and Fridays for open office hours, that's great. And then Tuesday through Thursday, it's all education, all job seekers, from resume to networking to interview tactics. All of it's there for you guys, live workshops with Tina and I involved, and we'd love to have you. So if you're getting into the new year, come join us. We'd love to have you be a part of our world and have so many more individuals just like Wes be able to land jobs. Particularly, we'd love to see everybody get it in 3 months or less. Your journey is your journey, and we appreciate you. So Wes, thank you so much again for being with us. You're a blessing, my friend. I'm happy to have you as not just a friend for the last several years, but I know a friend for a lifetime, and I'm pumped. And at some point when we are large enough, I can't wait to have a big gathering and have all of the alumni come together, because you're going to be one I want some folks to meet inside of our ever-growing alumni group. So thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been great working with you over the last few years. I mean, great friend, great therapist. We've had a great time.
Just to be clear, I am not a therapist, just for everybody to know. Oh man, I'm not a therapist, but thank you, Wes. I appreciate you. And I do find that business therapy is a real thing. We all go through it. We all have trauma with stuff from work. I don't take that lightly, and I'm blessed to be able to take the things that I've learned over the years and share them with folks like you, and it means a lot to me when you say those things. So thank you, Wes, and for everybody listening. I cannot wait to have you inside of our community, and I can't wait for the opportunity to get to know you and see you walk on your own. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Wes, and for everybody, Happy New Year. Enjoy the 2026. Thanks.